What's going on, guys? Back finally with the full review of the new Cheetah 125. I know it took a while, but I honestly didn't get a whole lot of time on it this year. It was just a crazy year. So I wanted to wait to make sure I got a few trips on it and a lot of use in the yard. So all that is done. Summer's coming to a close, so I figured now's the best time. You guys were asking about it, so let's get into it. Overall, it's really been great. No major issues. Nothing has broken. Starts every time, every day, and never breaks down or anything. So that's awesome. Obviously it's a brand new machine, so you wouldn't expect something like that, but it's also an off-brand machine. It's a Chinese machine, and it's a cheaper machine, so maybe you think you would experience something like that. Headlights, useless. It's not for nighttime driving. You will not be able to see. It's pure gimmick. They do turn on, but that's about it. Bumper, surprisingly sturdy, attached to sturdy metal, very thick plastic. Really haven't hit too much, but I don't see any issues here. Tires are holding up well. We mainly do soft terrain, so there isn't too much wear and tear there. The shocks, obviously, we had a whole video on that. You can go back and look at that video right up the top. Stock shocks were terrible, garbage. Do not use them. Throw them away immediately. Spend a few bucks, get this. These are still cheap, but it will drastically improve your ride. No, it will not be great for doing huge jumps, but it will soften the ride, lower the vibration, and really make it usable. The stock shocks that were on it, just driving on the straight, like, road, paved road, this thing would vibrate and shake so bad. There was just no give. Once I put these on, softened it up a lot, lowered a lot of the vibration. One thing that is to note is the way the engine's mounted. There's not enough bushing material, there's not enough rubber, so it does shake and vibrate a lot. Like, they should put more rubber here, more over here. And these engine mounts, it kind of, when you're revving up high, there's a lot of vibration. A lot of that's probably also with the cheaper designed engine. I know it's kind of a Honda clone, but it just vibrates more than your name brand ATV would. It's been a year getting wet. I washed it a few times. There's not much rust. There's some rust in here. I don't know where that's coming from. There must be like a little missing paint. When they sprayed it, they probably didn't get enough paint in there. But overall, the frame is in really good shape. The battery that came with it has been working great. Starts every time. Never had to charge it up or do anything besides the initial time I unboxed it. Something else we did, which I also have a video for, I will link in this video, is we put wheel spacers on. Now, this thing from the factory comes very narrow in the back and then wide in the front. So the wide track in the front makes it at least somewhat stable in the corners, but it almost feels like a three-wheeler because the back wheels were so tight together that any sort of speed without a full lean and this thing starts tipping. So one of the other first things I did, which you can check out in that video, is I put 2-inch wheel spacers on this. As you can see in here, big, solid, thick aluminum spacers. That was a very easy install, worked great. The only issue with it is these bolts are not long enough. I have yet to go in and get those replaced, but you can see they are not sticking through. So this nut is not really serving its purpose to its fullest extent. So that I'm not very happy about. But besides that, these things fit great. There's no wobble, there's no wiggle. Drives very smooth, and overall I was very happy with them. Rear brake works great. It is hydraulic disc. They work very nice. Front brakes suck. Front brakes are not hydraulic. They're just cable drum brakes, and they do not work well. Fortunately, the back works so good that it's not a big deal, but I would love to see that improved. I think they have another model that has hydraulic front brakes for a little more money, so that would be something to consider. I have a lot of people asking about the rear shock. I have not replaced the rear shock. It is stiff, but I've had people say, you know, when they sit on theirs, their shock doesn't even budge. That's not the case with this one. If it was only my kids riding it, I would change the shock to a softer setup. I'd probably get basically the same as the fronts. They're not the exact same though, so don't go buy more of those, because the eye-to-eye length is shorter. I believe this is 280 millimeters and the front is 320 millimeters. So if you're buying shocks, be mindful of that. And the other thing I found was they usually don't just sell one, so a lot of times you have to buy a pair for the rear, put one on, I don't know, sell the other one, or save it for a rainy day. But I ride this, my wife rides this, so I didn't want it to go through the work and money and to be too soft. But a lot of you are asking about it, so I might end up doing it just to test it out, because I do feel like it would make the ride nice and plush, but I'm just nervous that I'm gonna bottom it out when I sit on it. Gearing is just a single speed forward, single speed reverse. The other issues with it is being that it's cheaper. It's like, okay, this thing costs $1,000, brand new. You're gonna go and spend on a Honda like 200, 15 years old, you're gonna spend $2,000. So keep that in mind when we're discussing the differences here between a Honda ATV and this. But that being said, everything works as it should, but you do start to realize the quality issues when you're riding it. For instance, the plastic, very thin plastic, very wobbly plastic. I feel like they could easily improve that for not much money. So everything kind of shakes around when you ride. Other thing is, it's a little rickety sounding. Everything kind of squeaks when you're riding it. Everything's squeaking. Not very loud, but it does squeak and rattle a little bit. So you just lose some of that quality feel that you would get riding it. Even an older Japanese or Can-Am quad, you can just feel that it's not a expensive product. the most important thing is that my kids love it, and that was what I bought it for. And they can ride it, beat on it, do whatever they want while riding it, and it's gonna perform. And I have yet to have to fix anything, repair anything. So in that regard, it's perfect. This is basically replacing a Raptor 50 that we had, which honestly is a fantastic ATV for your very first one. My kids started riding when they were 4, so I needed the very, very, very beginner quad, and the Raptor 50 is good for that. It's a little smaller than this, and frankly, it's good quality, but it kind of sucks. There's no suspension. It's super slow, but it's very well built. Great beginning ATV. Even at 4 years old, I didn't just let them rip on it. I was very nervous. They rode with me for the most part at first. There's even like a little pull cord on the back that I would run behind them as they rode, and if they cranked on the throttle and just took off, I'd yank the cord and shut it off. Because I've seen what can happen when kids get throttle happy. But it was a great beginning ATV. But it quickly gets old because it's just slow. So this was a pretty fun upgrade from that as far as speed goes. It's definitely quicker. It's definitely funner. You have to know what it is, though. It's a single speed ATV, so it'll go fairly quick, but you're revving out the engine to do that. So if you have a 3-speed youth ATV, at least if you're in 3rd gear, you can be going pretty quick, and the engine isn't revving so high. So that's a downside to a single speed. Obviously, with younger children, shifting kind of sucks. My kids have a CRF 50 and a CRF 110. Both of those are no clutch, but shifting. And they can do it just fine. They just love to stay in a gear and then just, be in the wrong gear at the wrong time. And we are working on that. And it's going pretty good. But if you don't want to have to worry about that, a single speed is great. So they can just rip around and not have to deal with that issue. As far as speed goes, people have asked me, is it fast? It's a very relative question, because in my yard on our acre, yeah, it's super fast. Tons of fun. You can really rip, and you almost can't top it out because there's so many times you have to turn, and you're going to feel like you're going to tip. You can get the back end to break loose really easy around corners. You can kind of drift, and it's so fun in small areas. When you're out on the open trails, you're just kind of revving out the engine, and it's vibrating a lot and shaking a lot, so it's not as fun. That's with me riding. My kids riding it on the trails think it's fantastic. Great. So that's probably what you're buying this for. So in that regard, yes, I think they will think it's plenty fast. Unless they've had a lot of experience on ATVs, then they might not.
Okay, so I realize this video is getting really long. So 30 seconds. Yes, I recommend it. Yes, you should buy it if it's one of your kids' first ATVs. If your kids are between the ages of 6 to 15, I think I know it's a big range, but anywhere in there, it's gonna fit them, and it'll be fun. If used ATVs in good condition are easy to come by from where you live, I mean, look there first. But the used market is so hit or miss. Either they're selling old crap for expensive, or they're selling really good condition 15-year-old ATVs for really expensive. But if you can look and find a deal, it's probably a better bet. But like when I was looking, there was nothing available. So if you need to get something right away and you've looked around and people are just overcharging for a used one, this is probably a good pick. It should last years without needing much maintenance. And now there are replacement parts more easy to come by compared to 10 years ago with the Chinese ATVs. You know, something broke, you're pretty much screwed, you couldn't get it. Now there's a lot more market for that. So you can replace pieces, you can upgrade pieces and parts, you can do all sorts of things with them. So basically that's it. I'm going to end it here. I've gone on long enough. If you've hung out for this whole time, thank you. Any other videos I post about the quad will probably be rear shocks, maybe air filter, carburetor, things like that. So please like, share, subscribe. Now that I got this video out of the way, there's a bunch of other stuff I want to do with the CRFs, and I want to purchase another electric dirt bike. So that'll be coming soon. So stay tuned, and thank you.